I'm here with Rosalina today from the SDS Forum, and we're going to be examining in more detail option 1. But before we look at that, let's explain what all 4 options are. Rosalina, thanks for joining us. Do you want to talk us through options 2, 3 and 4 then?
Yes. Well, options 2 is very similar to option 1. It's about somebody's identified budget, and it's not the management of the budget, but it has all the choice of and flexibility and control of option 1.
And what's option 3?
Option 3 is what's in place at the moment, which is a direct service organised by the social work practitioner.
And option 4?
Option 4 is a combination of option 1, 2 and 3.
So it's just a mishmash of everything together.
It can be a pick and mix for the individual.
Right, well, let's examine option 1 then in a bit more detail. What are the benefits of choosing option 1?
Option 1 gives individuals flexibility, choice and control. It lets them, with the support of their social worker, identify a service that will meet their needs.
But they have control of the money themselves, don't they?
Yes. Option 1 is also known as a direct payment. Direct payment actually means they are given a cash payment to deliver that support themselves.
Option 1, there's so many benefits, as you said, but people do feel slightly concerned about it. What are those concerns?
Well, one of the concerns is managing the money, and the other concern is actually being in control, because prior to SDS options, the control was left with the social work practitioner. So there is that, but option 1 gives flexibility, choice and control to an individual. It opens up. It's such a benefit once an individual does go down that road.
Now, one of the things that you're very keen to emphasise with option 1 is thinking outside the box. You've said how much flexibility there is. Talk us through some examples, because you can be incredibly creative, can't you?
Yes, not everybody is creative initially because they've never had to be. So it's, sometimes I will use examples, but people have been very creative. A prime example is a young man of 30 that stays with his parents, and because of his complex physical disabilities, he was at risk when even just going out to the garden. So some of the budget for him paid for a resurfacing within the garden where he is safe to enjoy the beauty of the garden, and so he's not, confined to the house.
Well, whilst we're talking about people in their gardens, there's another gentleman as well, isn't there, who had got a lot of pleasure out of gardening but felt that he needed some help. What did he do? Yes,
and it was just a simple thing. I mean, before his accident and suffering a brain injury, this man's garden was his forte and his big hobby. So with the funding that he has, he now can maintain and sustain his garden with a support worker that supports him doing that.
And there's another family who've come up with a great idea. They've all sort of pulled together and worked out how option 1 could work for them. Tell me a bit about them.
Yeah, this is a great example, which I use quite a lot as well, obviously anonymised. But the thing is, there's 2 brothers who are really caring about their mother and want her to stay at home as opposed to residential. One of the brothers stays with mum 24/7, but obviously needs support for a break now and again. So the budget pays for the second brother, who resides and lives and works in London, to fly up from London every second weekend from a Friday to a Monday. And the funding pays for the flights and the travel to and from the airport. So this allows the main carer, the other brother, to have time off. And it's a win-win situation. Both brothers get to care for the mother gets to see her 2 sons.
And stay at home with them.
And that, more importantly, that is the thing. The key is being looked after in their own home.
Well, whilst we're talking about the creativity of option 1, there is a thing as well that people do, stockpiling their hours or some of their money. Explain a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a very new concept, and a lot of people get jittery about it. But the bottom line is that they can, if they can, they'll come back and say that I've got a budget of X amount of hours. Do I need to use all those hours every week? And depending on the the outcomes. The argument is they can save some of their hours to look if they want to go to an event, and at that event they'll pay a support worker to allow them to get there.
Or even at a big holiday. The things that a lot of people take for granted, but they need the extra support for.
And a physically disabled person still wants to go on holiday, saving up from his income, but needs support for that. So what the funding will allow is for him to stockpile, as you say, some of the funding to arrange a holiday abroad.
And another thing that they can do is keep back some money, perhaps if they're saving up for a piece of equipment, or if it's a parent, they've found that technology can help their child. They can save some money back for that, can't they?
That very important, that, you know, and again, it's one of those about creativity. You know, a piece of equipment might be the ideal support for an individual youngster, for instance, regarding stimulus and, development.
Something like an iPad or a tablet, and that's seen as something that's important, and they can keep money back and save up for that.
Exactly, yes, because it's meeting an outcome, it's meeting the outcomes, and that's what we talk about now, outcomes.
Let's talk about then some of the responsibilities that people have with option one, because that is sometimes off-putting for them.
Yeah, there's always responsibilities, but with option one, there is responsibilities. First of all, you're getting a budget, and it's public money, so it has to be accountable. And what is recommended is that the individual opens up a separate bank account. That in itself is not a big deal, but it's also a benefit for them to do that, because the monitoring purposes for this money is that they have to submit records to the council regarding the expenditure. So it keeps everything nice and tidy and tight. The second thing is about the record keeping. That can be quite daunting for a lot of people, but it's quite straightforward, and there is advice and support out there about how to go about that.
And you can also get help with start-up costs for setting up that administrative side of it, can't you?
Oh, yes, especially if somebody's going down the road of employing privately. There are start-up costs, and these start-up costs are over and above the actual budget that they've been allowed, because it's about keeping people right in as much as the employment law stipulates regarding employers' liability, payroll, etc.
It all sounds very positive, and there is a lot of help you can get out there. But something else that people might be concerned about is having to employ people themselves.
Again, that can be very daunting. It depends on very much the individual. Some people have very fixated ideas, that's the road they're going to go down. But there are organisations out there that can help, and the council does have a duty of responsibility to ensure that that support is there.
You're obviously a big believer in option one. What would be your message to people who are considering it?
I really believe, out of all the options, it's for people that want the total control. I believe it's the option to go down. And yes, there will be a journey for that option, but to be open-minded about it and to try it out.
But if people are concerned, they can come to the SDS Forum for help, can't they? Oh,
yes, and I would welcome the people within East Renfrewshire to come along and get advice, information and support from us. We're independent of the council. We give the information and support. We organise sort of a appointment system so that you have it, the advice and support will be person-centred to that individual's needs.
Now, finally, if somebody chooses option one and they decide after trying it out that it isn't for them, it isn't the end of the world, is it?
Oh, goodness, no. No, that nobody is tied into any of the options. And if they feel that it's not appropriate or it's not working out for them, then all they need to do is get back in touch with their social work practitioner, who will then look at other options to support them with.
Rosalina, thank you very much.
Thank you.